Alright, I just want to preface this video by saying that everything I'm going to talk about is purely for soloing 5-star max raids. Um, I'm not well versed in competitive battling, so the three Pokemon that are about to be mentioned are not. I'm not talking about the viability for them in competitive 1v1s and 2v2s, and I'm not talking about their use in uh, beating the pseudo Elite Four Leon. This is purely just for doing max raids. Solo. And the reason why we solo them is because Nintendo's online is really, really bad. I could use much more vulgar words. There's no sugarcoating it. Nintendo's online really sucks. Game Freak services are equally as bad. It's pathetic from both sides. There's just no defending it. This shouldn't be acceptable from companies of their size. But here we are. We have to deal with it. So there's going to be a bit of rambling. I'm not using a script. I'm sort of just talking out of my ass here. I've done roughly what you see here is 1 million watts, which equates to 500 max raids. I've done roughly 600. I've spent, no, not 600. Probably like anywhere from 500 to 550. I've spent a bunch of watts, but this is a million. I wanted to be the first to get a million, which I think I was, at least documented. But I wanted to do this to show that I've done thorough testing with these three, or regarding these three. Yeah, let's jump into it. So let's get these off the screen for now. I'll bring them back up later. Nintendo online sucks. We have to solo, but soloing means we have to use their NPCs, and the NPCs are really bad. They're underleveled, they have no health, they deal no damage, they make bad choices. They're useless. There's no sugarcoating that either. And if we use normal Pokemon, like say you're using your starter because it's super effective against the max raid boss, you have to first break the barrier that the Pokemon put up, because in 5-star max raids you're dealing with anywhere from 3 to 7 barrier ticks, and then you have to deal with 2 applications of barriers across the entire fight, which is too much with the NPCs. You have four lives in max raids, and they die too fast. So you don't have enough time to break the barrier, do enough damage to bring up the next barrier, and then break that barrier, then kill the boss. There's just not enough time. You can do it, just not consistently. And that's the issue, and that's what I want to address, because some people, I see a lot of people asking, not me specifically, but a lot of people asking in general across the internet how to efficiently do max raids, because there's no way with Nintendo services. The answer is Zacian, Eternatus, Zamazenta. Before I go into stats and which one's best and whatnot, I want to talk about why they're good. So Zacian and Zamazenta learn Iron Head. When going into battle, Iron Head turns into Behemoth Blade for Zacian and Behemoth Bash for Zamazenta. I don't know why. They should just be unique moves, but whatever. That's what we have. These moves have a base power of 100, accuracy of 100%, PP of 5, which can be raised to 8, and a secondary effect that makes the move deal double damage to Dynamax targets, a state which our target is always going to be in max raids. Always. So if we ignore stab, because my brain's not big enough to do the calculations on it, we have a move that's dealing 200 power and has 100% accuracy with no downside. What's really big about these moves is nothing explicitly states this or explains why. I assume this is just because the moves deal a lot of damage. A good chunk of damage from the barrier, or from these moves, goes through the barrier. So not only are you dealing a tick of the barrier's health, of say there's 4, you deal 1 tick, maybe the 3 NPCs will attack it and bring down the barrier and lower the defense and special defense. But you're also dealing a good chunk of damage through the barrier. Now, I will bring these videos back up again, or these GIFs from my gameplay. So in the first one, you can see I'm fighting Cherim. I break the barrier while dealing about 20% of its health. And then the barrier destruction also deals damage to it. And then in the second one, I deal maybe, these are both 5 stars, by the way. I deal 40%, roughly 40, to Shiftry with its barrier up. And you can see how much damage is going through the, especially in the second clip here, how much damage is going through the barrier while also dealing a tick. Not in this second one, though. This one just killed it. This is why it's so good. And this will guarantee efficient and fast clears. No other Pokemon in the game can do this. This happens every fight. It varies based on how much damage you can deal. You can see that these two vary differently. And these aren't the only two sort of highs and lows you'll see. Sometimes you'll see you don't deal a lot of damage. Other times you'll see you deal half of its health. But I always use Zacian throughout all of this. There was no reason for me to ever use anything else. There were times I struggled against Gigantamax Dreadnought. That was the only Pokemon Zacian ever struggled against for me. And that was just because it had super high defense. But if you manage to break the first barrier, that's not an issue because it lowers the defense and special defense. Now let's take these off again. The TLDR, or TLDW, I guess, for this video, is that if you want to efficiently clear, use Zacian, Zamazenta, or Eternatus because of these moves. If you have Sword, Pokemon Sword, always use Zacian. If you're up against a high defense target, you can use Eternatus. There's not really a reason to, just because Zacian is really strong offensively, and we'll go over that in a second. If you're playing Sword, I'd recommend always using Eternatus, or if you have access to Zacian, to just get Zacian, just because Zamazenta is not as strong offensively. He's a defensive unit, like he's a tank, but he still does this well. I mean, not as well. He's serviceable. He gets the job done. But if you're playing Shield, just use Eternatus. It's just much better than Zamazenta for this. So I would put Zamazenta as the, I don't want to say third best, but out of these three, he's the third best. Then Eternatus, then Zacian. I'm going to go up, or I'm going to go from bottom to top. So I already mentioned that Zamazenta is offensively, if you look at his stats all around are incredible. It's just that his attack is lower than the other two. And the important thing here is killing fast, because if you don't kill fast, the boss will kill the very underpowered NPCs before you can make a meaningful dent in its health. And Zamazenta can do that, just not as efficiently. His ability, Dauntless Shield, gives him +1 to defense. Defense just doesn't matter. You should be level 100 anyway if you're soloing 5-star max raids. And you will survive. There's no need for high defenses like this. He gets the job done, just not as efficiently. Next is Eternatus. Eternatus is good. Has really solid special attack, solid speed. It's just that it's not Zacian, and we'll go over that in a second. But if you're playing on Shield, I do recommend Eternatus. Eternatus is somewhat comparable to Zacian, just a weaker version of it. Now Zacian. Why is Zacian the best? Well, let's look at this attack. Base attack of 170. Zacian is tied for 7th across all generations of Pokemon for highest base attack with Kyurem and Mega Garchomp. And since none of these Pokemon are in Pokemon Sword and Shield, it has the highest base attack in the game, which means at 100 it'll still have the highest attack. It has the second highest base speed in the game, coming behind Ninjask. But if you're 100, you will outspeed everything, even a max raid 5-star Ninjask. So that's not a concern. Also, Zacian has Intrepid Sword, which is similar to Zamazenta's ability, but what it does, instead of +1 defense, it gives it +1 to attack. So you're getting a free stage of attack increase at the entry of battle, which is, I mean, I assume for competitive battling as well, this is already nutty, but this makes Zacian even more of an offensive powerhouse. It's just, it's not comparable. The other two are good. They're just not comparable to Zacian. I think Zacian is one of the most scary units in the entire game for probably all content. But I don't know. I know for max raids, I did over 500, and I'll bring these clips back up. I did over 500 max raids solo with Zacian. I did maybe roughly 20 with Eternatus. You can do anywhere from 5 to 10. You get a good understanding of how they're going to perform. It's just that Zacian does everything, even against not, if you're fighting something it's not very effective against, it doesn't matter because your attack stat is so much higher than that of the other two. Even if you're comparing it to Eternatus' special attack, as soon as you break the first barrier application, if your move's not very effective, it doesn't matter. Lowering its defenses will make your move just that much stronger. That's roughly it. There's no special techniques or secrets to it. It's just use the legendary Pokemon and you will find success. I'm sure there's other techniques. I've seen other people use things like Icicle Spear, I believe is the move's name, where it attacks 2 to 5 times, and it did against a if it was super effective against the target, it did okay damage. But the difference between these 3 Pokemon and everything else in the game is it doesn't matter if it's super effective or not. Their offensive stats are already really high, especially Zacian, but their move power is stupid strong in this environment, and it's not comparable. Unless they change it to make it so that NPCs are a lot stronger or multi-hit moves break barriers, there's no reason to use anything else. If your goal is to efficiently clear 5-star max raids without wiping and getting them done fast, I recommend these 3, especially Zacian. I can't say this enough. I recommend Zacian and the other 2. I can't recommend them enough. I hope that this helps. I hope that these clips give enough understanding to even want to try it. But I hope that more people start using these Pokemon. And hopefully this forces Nintendo to realize that, or not Nintendo, but Game Freak to realize that this system is, as it is broken. And not in a good way. It doesn't function properly. It doesn't lend itself to variety if your goal is efficiently farming. I mean, if we're efficiently farming, there's always going to be something that's best, but the system is just, it's not good as it is. And these 3 Pokemon will, I guarantee, carry you through solo max rates. But anyway, sorry, the video went on a lot longer than I had hoped. I didn't use a script or anything, I'm just rambling. But I hope this helps. Alright, bye.